What is up, guys? So everybody is talking about Rageblade Tristana. It's all over my sub feed, and yes, it's pretty good, but there are two others who use the same build but have a much higher win rate. Now, win rate doesn't mean everything, but it's a very good sign, especially when right now, as I'm making this video, in Korea, both are in the top 5 AD carry wise, whereas Tristana is down at 14th. I don't know if you guys are going to want to see these in action or not, but like this if you did, and if we hit 3,000, I will do a full gameplay video of them. Dislike it if you didn't though, but let's crack on. So we are of course talking about Varus and Ashe. I know probably not who you're expecting, but these are both doing so well right now, and in my opinion are just that bit better than Tristana is at the moment. This is the build core, right, for all of them, Rageblade plus Runins. It's what Kog'Maw uses, it's what Tristana uses, and now we're moving it on to these others. This is kind of the core with all three champions, like it does the same job. The champions just use them slightly differently. The reason this is so good is because it gives us a bunch of mid-game power. That is why we are building it. Traditionally, AD carries ramp up and up, kind of like this, in a straight line, just getting stronger and stronger as the game goes on. Well, with Rageblade and Runins, you get a big boost after completing each one, a bigger boost after having both together, then you get stronger with items, but eventually a normal crit build is going to overtake you and be doing more damage. That is the biggest reason why these are so good. We're in a meta where mid-game teamfights mean a ton. We group earlier, towers die faster, so teamfight wins can actually get us more. Let's move on to specifically why on these three champions though. Rageblade base stats gives us 30 AD plus 40 AP, then the stacking gives us AP, AD, and attack speed. At 8 stacks it's actually 64% attack speed, 24 AD, and 32 AP. So if I'm using my economics degree right, 54 AD, 72 AP, 64% attack speed, plus the rage passive damage, which is 20, plus part of our AD, plus part of our AP. This is the part where Runins comes in, so not only do we get the attack speed so we can stack faster and apply the passive more, but we now have these extra bolts too. The two extra bolts are going to use the AD from Ginsu's, the rage passive on hit damage if they aren't already hit by the AoE, the Runins on hit damage, further damage, plus life steal when we buy that. Now crit does become a lot better into the game when you have crit chance and AD to make those crits hurt even more, but at two items, if I put them next to each other, you can see why this is better. 54 AD, 72 AP, 64% attack speed, rage passive damage, plus then the 40% attack speed, 30% crit on hit damage, extra bolts. That is a mouthful to say. That is a lot of things packed into these two items, which we then get mid-game and giving us a big boost in power. On the other side, 65 AD, so only 11 more, 20% crit passive, 35% attack speed, 30% crit, and the charge damage. You can see for yourselves, but stat wise, Rageblade lets us attack faster and harder mid-game, but we do have to stack it up to start with. So the start of the fight we're semi-weak, then we turn into a monster. That's basically the sum of it. Now Ashe is already a great Runins user because she applies the slow in AoE and also applies the Q focus. Like when you have that active, it's gonna fire on everyone. She'll use the extra AD, the AP makes her ult hurt a little bit, which is kind of nice I guess, but honestly we're just making her spike a bit earlier with this build. Varus is the really interesting one. Ashe is being played a lot with different builds. Infinity Edge, Essence Reaver, all of them are doing pretty well. Varus, however, is pretty pants with a normal build. Okay with the poke one, but amazing with this Rageblade one. The Runins will apply your blight stacks, the passive thing that does percentage health damage. The AP actually means your stacks do more damage plus your ult damage, and the AD helps make your Q and E poke hurt too. It's interesting Varus actually works because if you think about it, Kog'Maw, Tristana, Ashe, they all have an attack speed boost. Ashe and Tristana have their Q to help stack the Rageblade faster. Varus only has his passive for the attack speed boost, which is kind of a push really, not helping that much. It's just he benefits so much from all the stats you get. So I said at the start, I think these are better than Tristana, and why? Mainly because we're amplifying their already strong mid-game rather than covering up Tristana's bad mid-game. Tristana is actually pretty good early, then kind of poop mid-game and great late game. Varus and Ashe are strong early, they're strong mid and late game, admittedly not as strong as Tristana late game, but this build spikes mid game. That's where we abuse it. So that is all why it works, and now we're going to go over actually how you'd play it. So the build, Rageblade and Runins, that's like cool. Kind of already gone over that bit. Then we really have two choices for our third item. We can either buff the on hit damage with Runins or we go for crit. Blade the Ruined King is one of the most common options. You can apply the on hit damage with the percentage health from the Blade the Ruined King. The Bloodthirster makes you really hard to kill. AoE lifesteal, and basically you're pushing your advantage. So we actually can get crit. We can get an Infinity Edge. It actually will work because Runins bolt bolts can crit as well. So we're doing like AoE crits, I guess, but you're kind of playing this for the glass cannon insane damage build at this point. Lifesteal will act as your defensive item really, unless you need to cleanse CC or you're getting one shot or anything like that. And then if you haven't built crit already, you want to build some at the end to help round out your late game. The masteries are pretty standard, but we want to be taking Fervor of Battle. Anytime you're building runings, you really want Fervor. While it won't stack it faster, it will apply the damage you get fully on the extra bolts from runings, so it is insane damage. Runes will be standard 80 reds, armor yellows, mix of attack speed and magic resist blues, depending on how big your balls are, and attack speed quints. So the lane phase, let's get actually into the details. Both Varus and Ashe have really high range, so we want to be abusing our auto attacks as much as possible really. Initially I actually had this split between Varus and Ashe, like a section on both, but they're a very similar playstyle, auto and poke with abilities. Normally as Varus you take death via keystone to poke more, but here we're playing around our autos, so trade that way instead. While we can just poke with our abilities, anytime the enemy goes for a CS you want to hit them and punish them for it. Oddly enough, you actually both get a lot of kill potential. At level 6 you have the arrow or the Varus route can lead to kills, and you'll have some decent damage too. Just bear in mind that the pickaxe first is fine, but in between that and the Rageblade, when you have a blasting wand, you are not as strong as like a BF pickaxe or hammer build. So basically you're strong early with pickaxe, then a bit weaker until you finish Rageblade. Mid game we want to be forcing fights as much as we can. Remember, we're playing for our mid game power spike, not to be a late game monster. We actually will be strong late game anyway, but this is the time where you'll be stronger than the enemy AD carry, so we want to abuse it and fight. You should have that juicy Rageblade Runes combo by now, and that'll mean that you'll do a huge amount of AoE damage in team fights as long as you can stack it up at the start quick enough. There isn't actually anything too special here apart from the normal AD carry stuff. Stay at the back, hit the closest targets, and use your abilities when they're up. Especially on Varus as well, don't charge your Q, okay? Quick cast it to instantly release. We want the proc damage on the blight stacks, not the poke. We'd rather be auto attacking than charging that arrow. Just a quick side note as well, if you're playing against these picks, then you want to punish them early when they have that blasting wand kind of stage, before they get the Rageblade, or just after they have it before runings. If you can't shut them down before that, then you want to try and not fall behind too much mid game where they're super strong, and wait for the kind of 3-4 item stage if you can. This build is all about timing and abusing the power spikes while you have them. If you can outlast that stage where they're really strong, then you will start to come back into the game quite easily. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like, subscribe, comment, share. Hope you'll have a lovely day, but let's go to the robots.